Welcome to Postgame Pod here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. A little late. I apologize. I juggling a lot tonight. Was trying to be dad / working. Want to get the kids home to school tomorrow. They were at my in-laws. Not that you guys care. It's just that's why the podcast was so late. Um, Doing it live here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. If you guys have comments you want to jump in, I'm sure a bunch of you will be trickling in. But yeah, get to this. This will mainly be for the podcast audience on Friday morning on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. All of our post game reaction shows during basketball season brought to you by our friends at the Iowa Clinic, the Iowa Clinic Men's Center, and our friends at Carl Chevrolet, Carl Auto Group. We appreciate all of their sponsorships as we roll through. Appreciate, man, there are more of you watching live than I thought there would be at 11:15. Jake is saying, "How dare I have adult responsibilities?" Yeah, the wife had to work, so it's like I got to get the kids to the in-laws, and I got to pick them up after the game. You all know what I'm talking about. It was a hell of a night in Hilton Coliseum, and I'll spend my time on Iowa State here. If you do want more, John Miller and I will be going live on Iowa Everywhere on Friday morning at 9 to talk more of a balanced look at the game. But this is Cyclone Fanatic, so that's where we will spend our time. I thought it was, as near perfect of a game as maybe Iowa State could play, really. You forced 19 turnovers. You score 90 points. You shoot over 50% from the field, 47% from three. Perfect is a loaded word, right? Like that. There because nothing's really perfect, but I mean, it really. At this point in the season, I don't know if Iowa State could play better than they did tonight. I thought that obviously this game started with TJ, and their philosophy is to pound it inside and inside out and establish that early. And boy, Robert Jones and Trey King were just brilliant early on. I mean, they made the Iowa bigs look really, really, really bad, specifically in that first half. And they just set the tone so early. Here's a stat for you. King and Jones combine to go 14 of 17 from the field. Wow. I mean, that's really freaking good. When those two can do that, you won't lose. It probably won't happen again this year, honestly, because that's an incredible stat. On top of that, so it's funny. This is a game where the stories are going to be written about Keyshawn Gilbert, career high 25. He was phenomenal. Stories are going to be written about Robert Jones and Trey King and Iowa State's inside dominance. The real deal here, and again, it won't be written about. It's because there's such an expectation for it. But Tamin Lipsey is, in my opinion, a top 10 point guard in college basketball, and the country hasn't caught up to it yet. Another night, like a down night for him, was 3 for 7, 11 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals. Now he had 5 turnovers. I want to cut those down. But he sets the tone. He does so many, like the 4 steals are huge in that game. And he just sets the tone for the rest of the guys. And I thought Lipsey was brilliant tonight. Like, I mean, there were 2 huge differences, a big difference in these 2 teams tonight. But Iowa State clearly had the better point guard by a very wide margin. And then the bigs tonight just were completely dominant over what Iowa threw out there. Again, guys, I really I think Lipsey's totally underrated from a national standpoint. Like, he didn't get in the it's like the Bob Cousy Award. I don't know if it was their preseason watch list or what. He didn't even make the top 30. And it's just, if you watch him, he is the MVP of this team. Now, who was the player of the game tonight? Somebody asked me in the chat. I would say Robert Jones was. I know Gilbert had the team high in points, but I thought Robert Jones. I mean, where he was 2 years ago to where he is now is just, even where he was a year ago to where he is now, makes Iowa State so much more difficult to game plan against when he's not a total zero out there offensively. He's pretty good now. He's shooting like 75% from the field this year, 6 of 10 from free throws. So, yeah, it was, again, it wasn't perfect. Like, Momcilovic is 3 of 10, right? Like, so that you can get better there. Like, there's spots where you get, but tonight, excuse me, was really what the doctor ordered for Iowa State to get that. I I didn't even think last week. They scored 99. I didn't think they played well at DePaul. I was not. I thought DePaul was one of the. I mean, I thought they had good individuals, but I did not think they were a good team. I did not think they were coached well. I thought Iowa State just out talented them, and I just they defensively, I didn't love Iowa State's game. Like, yeah, I know they scored points, but I was looking at it like, how does this translate to the Big 12? In that game, I don't think did. This one was, very convincing to me that this team has taken a significant step forward since what we saw in Orlando. I think what we saw in Orlando was a bunch of guys who, they hadn't played anybody, right? Let's be honest, going into that tournament, you've got guys like Gilbert, Momcilovic, Pavletsky, Curtis Jones, like, who they just had never played that level of competition before, and it was a huge step. And I think the game was going really fast. And, my hope was that you learn from that and you get better from it, and they have. Right. And I asked Keyshawn about that tonight. I said, what have you learned in the last 2 weeks? And I thought he gave a really good answer. He said, I've learned not to get too high and not to get too low. And I was with the team after they blew that 21-point lead to Texas A&M. Man, that's easy to get really low. And so now you bounce back, and assuming they went out in these bye games, you start to look at the non-conference now, where, yeah, it was a disappointing showing in Orlando, but you really haven't hurt yourself. With the Big 12 schedule in front of you, you're going to be just fine. So in this game too, I don't know exactly what it did to the analytics, but these blowout wins are huge. Yeah, so Iowa State they jumped big tonight. 6 spots in KenPom after that win tonight. So that's pretty impressive. And that's why, like, these fans are like, well, why don't you play tougher games in the non-con? Because the net and all that crap actually rewards you for just beating the crap out of these bad teams. Not Iowa, but more like Lindenwood or Idaho State. When you beat the crap out of Iowa like you did tonight, and you start to rack up these double-digit wins, the computers really start to love you. So that's Iowa State's next, Prairie View A&M, Florida A&M, Eastern Illinois, and New Hampshire before you start the Big 12. So you should end this thing with an 11-2 mark in the non-conference. But again, today's game, listen, perfect is a big word to throw around, but I just don't know if they could play much better. The guy I'm going to give a lot of credit to again, and it just is Pavletsky. 27 minutes tonight, okay? So 7 points, hits a corner 3. We're all looking for him to hit threes. 5 rebounds, 3 assists. It's such a man, it's a big deal to have him off the bench like that. Also thought it was interesting. So he's chipping into Curtis Jones's minutes a little bit. I thought Curtis was just fine tonight. 4 rebounds, like to see that. 4 points. But 27 minutes for Pavletsky, 15 for Jones. We also saw Demarion Watson get the Omaha Blue minutes. Omaha did not play in this game tonight. And, I keep getting questions about him, and I don't have a different answer. It's taken him a while, I mean, if you've watched him, and we've all watched, he looks really out of place out there, and I I I think tonight I didn't ask about it. I'm not gonna ask about the one guy, in the post game. You beat your rival by 25. The story isn't the McDonald's All-American at the end of the bench on a night like tonight, in my opinion. My guess is it's the exact same answer he had again after the DePaul game when he didn't play much in the second half. And, would you like to see him out there more? Absolutely, we would. Everybody's rooting for Omaha. I do know this, that he's a phenomenal teammate. He's completely locked in. It's not I saw like people are like, does he have an injury? Is he mad? No, none of that. It's just he's just not there yet. And I'm hopeful now in the next 4 games with these bye games, that's when you throw Omaha out there and start to work on some stuff. That's my hope as far as that goes. But yeah, no, he's not hurt, nothing like that. He's just not playing well and got to work him back into there. And that's what coaching is. You develop these guys, right? Um, but yeah, big stat in this one. You turn Iowa over 9 times and 19 times, excuse me. Iowa entered this game as the 5th best team in the country when it came to taking care of the basketball. So that's a huge stat. I mean, I would guess entering this game, if you would have told odds, you're going to turn them over 19 times, you think your chances are really good in Hilton Coliseum. Hilton was great. 2 nights in a row there really was awesome. The women's game, I was telling a friend of mine after that I think I enjoyed even in a loss. I wish Iowa State wins it, obviously, but that was one of the most fun games I think I remember covering in Hilton. It was just a great game. Wish that Iowa State could have held on there at the end after they go and take the lead at the 5 and under, but just a really great basketball game last night, and this one was kind of a dud. I is so much of a dud that I'm going to go and watch it again, like I'm sure a lot of you have already. But just a really dominating performance, and I love the aspect of this schedule because you you got the DePaul and Iowa wins, which you had to have, I think, after how Orlando goes, and now you can really work on some things. Now, see, and this is where the basketball geeks like me are going to freaking love to watch these next 4 games, because then you get to watch them really, sharpen their knives and get ready for Big 12 play. I think it's going to be a blast. Fun team. I do not think this team is Big 12 ready yet. I think they got a lot of work to put in over the next 3 weeks. I know that they will. But I'm very encouraged after tonight, just how they bounce back, right? Like I think I don't know how you're not. I also think this Iowa team has some problems, if we're being real. Jake, I'll go ask some of these questions. Jake says, "Do you think the inside game is replicable into conference play?" Probably not. Not to say it's not doable. I just think that tonight was probably a 10 out of 10. Like, I think that they can replicate that. That's going to be really tough. I hope, right? I mean, if they do, Iowa State's a 2 seed. But I don't know. I just think the Big 12. I don't like using the word soft because that's very disrespectful. I think Iowa's bigs were taken to school tonight, and I think that if you watch their Purdue game, I wonder how. I just don't think there's a lot of Big 12 teams that are going to have bigs in that ilk, if that makes sense. Those guys didn't want to. They didn't want any of that smoke. And Grant makes a great point. Like, to me, it's funny. I was talking to my buddy Chad Leistiko from the Register, who covers Iowa, before the game, and I was telling him that I thought Ward being out was a huge deal in this game. It clearly turned out not to be. But see, I think that's a big deal, Grant, when Ward comes back for the Big 12. More of a defensive deal. Like, I just think Trey King, he's been so good the last 2 games. He's so much more of a natural 4 than when he has to slide over and play the 5. He's just not like at the power 5 level, he's not a 5. Not that he can't do it. I mean, he can some, but Jones is, and I think Robert Jones is now. Like, I think Robert, he's ready to go. But Trey's going to be so much better with Ward there, and that's what I'm looking forward to. All right, let's go back to some of these questions that I have missed up here. I'll take a couple more of these things, and then I'm going to go and get to editing. Peter, Chris, how could the experts miss so badly on Omaha? 5-star basically can't miss going out of an unranked team. So, I mean, Peter, here's the deal. You're talking about Momcilovic, and like, first of all, don't compare the guys because they're very different players. Milin Milan is playing like a totally different position. I think if Omaha was a guard, he'd be in a much better spot. When you're an 18-year-old and you're trying to play up against 24-year-olds like Robert Jones and Trey King, like, you're going to get your ass kicked sometimes. And it's just the reality of it. The farther away from the basket you are, the easier it is to play as a freshman. So I'm not giving up on him. I mean, could they miss so badly? I mean, there's 5 stars that don't play often. And I mean, it sucks. I wish he was out there, and I think he will be out there at some point, but he's clearly not now. To me, that's not the story tonight. The story is that the team won by 25 without the McDonald's All-American. Like, that's a good sign. Now you got this super talented guy who has an awesome attitude, and he's on the bench right now cheering on his teammates, and he's working hard all the time. Like, and hopefully you can have him be a piece of this team in the Big 12. That's how I look at it. Let's see. Grant, he does it. Yeah, we're talking about the how does this all translate into Big 12 play? I think the guards, like Lipsy, to me is first or second team all Big 12. The Gilbert deal is, I'm not 100% sold yet, but I think Keyshawn took a huge step tonight. I think that he continues to work in the next 3 weeks, and I think he'll be there. He looked out of place a little bit in Orlando. I just thought the game was moving really fast for him. He was being defended by longer guys, more athletic guys than he was used to, and I thought things sped up just a little bit. But he was great tonight. I think the guards. I even think Kurt Jones. Like, I mean, is he going to be 6th man of the year? No, but I think he defensively and hopefully he keeps his shots a heck of a lot better than it was. I think that it all can translate. I'm really, really. I love the fact that Iowa State scores 90 tonight, only getting 8 from Momcilovic, because he is their best scorer. I will take it to my grave. Right, like, that's their best scorer at the end of the year. Drawing up a play, who do you want? It's Momcilovic. I truly believe that's where it'll be. And you only get 8 from him. He's 3 of 10. He missed a lot of wide open looks. I think that translates. I really do. Toughness-wise, Iowa State's going to be there. No doubt in my mind. All right. That's about all I got for you guys tonight. Man, I went 20 minutes on that game. Proud of myself. Shout out to my homie Emily Ryan. Thinking of her. Hope she can get back on the court for the Iowa State women. Got wearing her shirt if you're listening on the podcast feed. Thanks to our sponsors, Carl Auto Group, and my friends at the Iowa Clinic Men's Center, as always. Rob and Connor doing some great work. Appreciate their contributions on the front page of CycloneFanatic.com. All right, have a great night. We'll see you guys, Williams and Bloom.